The Falcon and Christian Grey go to New Orleans to take some recreational drugs and get fucked up. That was supposed to be a joke, but after I said it out loud, I mean, that could be kind of cool. Synchronic is brought to us by directors Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson and stars Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan. Mackie and Dornan play Steve and Dennis, two paramedics in New Orleans that grew up as childhood friends. As of late, they've been getting called to some really odd overdoses and also some really weird accidents as well. The one thing all these odd occurrences have in common is a new synthetic drug on the streets called Synchronic. After a certain turn of events concerning this drug threatens Dennis's family, Steve decides to dive deep into the drug to see what's really going on with it. And by diving deep into it, of course, that means he has to take it. And in taking it, he finds out that there is a lot more to this drug than just getting fucking high. And as he travels down this psychedelic sci-fi rabbit hole, he realizes that not only is his own fate in his hands, but that of those closest to him and quite possibly the world at large. As stated earlier, Synchronic is brought to us by Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson. Now, you may have heard me talk about Moorhead and Benson before with their absolutely amazing last movie, The Endless. I absolutely love that movie and can't give it enough praise, so when I heard about Synchronic, I had really high expectations. A sci-fi drama with time and mind-bending elements to it, brought to us by the guys who made The Endless? Fuck yes, sign me up! So did it live up to those expectations? Well, yeah, it kinda did. Synchronic is one of the most original movies I've seen since The Endless. Holy shit, this movie's a mindbender, but it's never confusing. You always understand what's going on. They do an extremely good job of explaining to you the rules of how all of this works, and for the vast majority of the time, sticking to those rules. Now, I don't want to go into the story too much here, because this is the kind of movie that you need to go into knowing as little as possible. I will say that the trailer for this movie is very representative of the movie. It doesn't tell you too much, but it gives you a really good idea of the tone of the film. Much like their last film, this one does have some mind-bending stuff in it, but this one's much more based on science and less superstition. Which, I mean, I guess that one could have been science too. You never really get an answer to that, but I'm gonna go with more superstition a bit. Or at least had a more cosmic theme to it, that's for sure. This movie is much more grounded in reality for the most part. Yes, there's some sci-fi elements to it that just don't exist, but if this type of thing did exist, I feel like this is kind of how it would work. Or this is at least a believable way as to how it would work. The only other things I'll say about the story is it does deal with time to a degree, but not in the traditional way that we're used to movies dealing with time. Like I said, this is a very original idea. Now, the thing that's gonna get your butt in the seat is the whole idea about this drug and the things it does to people and the journey this character goes on when he takes this drug. But what's gonna end up keeping you here is the story of these characters. This movie is a drama with sci-fi elements, not the other way around. There are some cool, exciting parts, but the vast majority of this movie is a drama. Now, some of that drama does concern some of the sci-fi elements of the movie, but it is a drama first, and this is some damn good drama. Our two main characters both have their own struggles that they're dealing with, and both performances given here by Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan are absolutely fantastic. These are some very believable characters, and for the most part, they're likable as well. Now, they're not perfect, both of them make mistakes, but that is one of the things that adds to that believability and that likability. You feel like you could know people like this out in the world. Both of these performances are probably the best I've ever seen these two actors. Now, granted, Jamie Dornan, he may have been in other stuff, but I've only really seen him in that Once Upon a Time show and the 50 Shades movie. So I didn't really have a lot to compare him to, but here he does a fantastic job. Now, Anthony Mackie, we've seen in a whole lot more, and he's had a lot more opportunity to flex his acting muscle. And the guy typically does a very good job. He comes across as a very likable person. I've never really thought that he was bad in anything, but I wouldn't say I've ever thought he was great in anything either. Just really solid. Until now, because in this movie, he is fucking great. The movie does follow both of these characters. It follows Mackie's Steven a lot more than it does Dennis. So there's long stretches of this movie that he's carrying the whole thing on his back, and he does it effortlessly. And there's some legit fucked up shit that happens to this character, but he conveys all of that masterfully. None of it's ever overdone or anything. It is just right. So if you've been on the fence about Mackie and just thought, I guess he was an okay actor, watch this movie and that opinion will change. Overall, everybody else in the movie does a really good job too, but the vast majority of screen time is between these two characters, and these guys knock it out of the fucking park. Now let's talk about the story without really talking about the story. Like I said, I don't really want to give anything away or tell you too much, because I think people should experience this movie with as little knowledge as possible. But I do want to say what I thought about this story. As stated before, this is one of the most original movies that I've seen in quite some time, if ever. But not just in its sci-fi elements. Yes, that stuff is really cool, and that stuff is really original. But I loved how they really interwove the drama into it all. And none of it ever seems like fluff. These things that are going on in these individual characters' lives really mean something, and they really add something to these characters and the story as well. I also like how they took some of these aspects of their life and interjected it into the sci-fi parts of the film. It made everything feel like it had a purpose. Even the smallest little things in the movie felt like they were there for a reason. That happened for a reason. This person does this thing for a reason. Everything here is for a reason, but none of it seems manufactured. It all seems very natural. I also love the way they told parts of the story. The vast majority of the film is told in chronological order, but there are some parts that are a little out of order. They're really flashbacks, I guess, but the way that they're presented to us, it's not like a flashback. It's more like they're extensions of scenes that we've already seen earlier in the movie. Be it something more that happened with a conversation that we didn't catch, or maybe it's from a different angle or something, so we see something a little different. It's a small thing, I know, but I really enjoyed how they were telling the story in this part of the movie. And while the movie is a sci-fi drama, it does have a sense of humor at times as well. It's not like they're cracking jokes through the whole movie or anything, but there are some genuinely funny moments here or there, most of which admittedly are attributed to Anthony Mackie's character. Now, as mentioned before, the movie does deal with time, but it deals with time in a different way than movies have before in the past. This is a really awesome concept of the movie, and really the only bad thing about it is there wasn't more of it. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of this thing in action. But I am very happy with what we got, and I guess that's kind of where they want to leave you, wanting more. Now, much like their previous film, The Endless, Moorhead and Benson show that they can do a whole lot with a very little amount. My understanding is that the budget here is larger than it was in The Endless, but it was still fairly low. But you can't tell by what's on screen. These guys do a fantastic job with the camera. Be it from the special effects, the cinematography, the lighting, just the overall look of this movie is very high quality. I'm convinced that if these guys ever end up with a crazy insane budget and are given some like high-end fucking crazy 8K cameras or something, whatever they shoot will inevitably make our eyeballs melt out of our fucking heads. This is a really pretty movie with some very creative, believable special effects. It's not like special effects all over the place or anything, but when they do happen, they are fairly extensive and look very believable. And really the only reason that I know that some of these are special effects is because the way in which they happen, I know just isn't possible. So overall, from a technical standpoint, the movie is great. Guys, at the end of the day, Synchronic was a great fucking film. It had wonderful performances, fantastic direction, one of the most original stories you've ever seen, and best of all, had a legitimate emotional payoff in the end. There's not really much that I can point the finger at and say I didn't like in this film beyond there's not more of it. And that's because Synchronic was an absolutely wonderful film, and it is absolutely worth a buy.
Do it! Do it!
Show me the money!
Do it!
You motherfucker!
So,
Show me the money!
do it!
This movie was this close to a unicorn rating, but it was just missing that little something. I don't know what it is. And that's not to say it's bad or anything. Worth a Buy is my second highest rating. It is absolutely a recommendation for me to go see this fucking movie. I just wanted to say that that's about how close it was. That this movie is that close to a unicorn rating in my book. So it's kind of like a Worth a Buy plus, if you will. Either way, it's a great fucking movie and you should totally check it out. So there it is, guys, my review of Synchronic. If you enjoyed, want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, New Orleans. Not only should you check out this movie, but you should totally check out Benson and Moorhead's previous effort, The Endless. They also have two other movies called Resolution and Spring. I haven't seen Spring, but Resolution was really good too. But The Endless is like next level fucking good. As of this recording, it's finally on Netflix, so there's really no reason at all that you shouldn't be able to see it. And especially if you're into like Lovecraftian cosmic horror, The Endless is heavily inspired by Lovecraft. So if that's your thing, you'll fucking love this movie. And if it's not your thing, you'll probably fucking love this movie because it's fucking amazing. If you look back on my channel, one of my earliest reviews was of that movie. So check that out for my more in-depth opinion of that movie. However, just be warned, that's one of my old videos, and regardless of what you think of the quality of my current videos, wasn't quite there yet back then, okay? Wasn't quite there. Gave it my best though. Gave it my all. Wasn't quite there though. So don't judge.